Greetings everyone, welcome to the first video of Codemesh. My name is Jisung and I'm here to bring you the best of the best in AI. What are we going to talk about today? Well, since it's our first day, let us start from an easy topic. What is Codemesh? But before doing that, make sure to leave a comment on this video if you have any questions. Let's dive right in. Before jumping into Codemesh itself, let's talk about generic AI first. What pops into your head if you think about AI? Well, I can think of ChatGPT or Sora, anything Sam Altman and the OpenAI people made. Well, the formal definition of AI is a computational machine that analyzes data and images to predict outputs or classify those inputs. Wait, Jisung, wait a minute. Inputs, outputs, what do you even mean? I don't know what that is. Oh, calm down, Bob. I have an answer for you. Let's assume that there's a function f, or we can call this function to be an AI model. Now, once we put in a certain value, namely the input inside this function, we get something called an output. And that's why we have in input and out in output. So input is the value that goes into the function, and the function calculates something. They combine letters and numbers, anything from the images or data they can acquire, and then they analyze it, make it as an output, and give it to us. Well, okay, Jisung, I think I do get what inputs and outputs mean, but what do you mean by classifying those inputs and predicting those outputs? Let me pull out that previous example of a function. Let's say we have a bunch of data, and there is a function, but the function is yet not defined. Now, the bunch of amount of data are going to go into the function, so it's going to be an input of the function, and then it manipulates the function. So for these data, there will be generally an x and y in it, and the function will detect the x values and y values and make itself as an equation which best fits those x and y values, meaning that using the data we are making a function or an AA model. Now when we're classifying inputs, it means that we're going to put these inputs into different groups. It could be 2 groups or 3 groups or many groups. We call those n groups. Now by saying predicting outputs, we're getting the inputs and making a function of something like, let's say it's something like y equals mx. That could be a function, that could be an AI model. And using the data, we're making that function, and the function gives us a predicted y value when we put an arbitrary x value in it. And that is what an AI model does. But now you might be thinking, okay, AI does those cool stuff. Now what does Codemesh do? Let me talk about it. Okay, so to use Codemesh, we start from here. You connect to a website named codemesh.xyz because that's the one we're using right now. Now if you connect there, you'll see some of the cool stuff here, a cool background with some like geometric shapes, a cool model. Welcome aboard Voyager, because you're one of our Voyagers now. And there's some credits on the bottom, and you'll see a button here. It will hopefully show up as like sign into Google for you, because I signed in once. It's just showing me that the button saying that sign in as Jisung, because that's my account. You'll click this button and you'll choose your Google account. There you go. And here you'll see all the different workspaces you've made, if you made before. And you also see 2 different buttons here. The first one says new workspace. You're gonna make a new workspace like this. Let's jump into that just in a second. First, we have something else called Go to Docs. Now, all of these videos and the explanations, the team will be uploading those information on something called documents. And the documents page is not ready yet, but as once you're ready, this button will be enabled, and if you click it, it will redirect to something called like docs.codemesh.xyz, where we all have these videos and explanations about different types of models and the collapsible data, about different CSV files we're using, how to customize your data, how to interpret and modify your data, all of this different stuff. But right now we don't have it, so it says there's nothing here. So you just kindly click Take Me Back Home, and you'll go back to your workspaces page. Now here you can start a new workspace. You click the first button, you give your workspace a name. Let's say Hello World, and you click Create Workspace, and you'll jump into some another platform where you can actually pull your nodes into this area to build your own AI model. And here are the different nodes. It says dataset, EDA. I'm going to explain what EDA means just in a second. One says regression, one says classifier, one says training. And here's some cool button here too, right? Okay, now let's first pull dataset here. So dataset, literally dataset means a set of data. So we know that AI models are meant to train themselves using something, right? But what is that something? That something is going to be data, as you just learned before in our function example. So a data set is an aggregation of those data that are used to train your AI model. And you'll need to select which type of data to use here. There are some default data you can use. There's something called iris species, wine quality, Boston housing, and the specifics of these three data sets. It will be explained in our document section. But you can also choose your own CSV file. We're saying by CSV files, CSV files are just a table, something you can see in Excel or Google Sheets. It's just a file of the table you use. And this is where you can customize your own data, but for right now, let's just move on. For now, I'll choose Boston housing, which is a good example for regressions. Okay, Boston housing. Boston housing has all the data of the cost of different houses in Boston, all the mortgage, all the salaries and stuff, all the relevant data regarding the cost of the house, the income of the buyer, some stuff like that. And we are going to call the data by using this dataset node. Now, next one, we're going to pull our EDA node here. Now, you might think, what does EDA even mean, Jisung? Well, EDA is an acronym. Acronym means you're cutting out the first letters of a word and putting it together. So if you're saying, TY, it's an acronym of thank you, as if EDA is an acronym of explanatory data analysis. By saying explanatory data analysis, we are modifying the data we just imported into a version where we can train our model. So in most cases, these data sets include data that are not really feasible for training. For example, we have something called NAN, and there is a label saying change NAN into something else, right? So NAN are found mostly in the data we import, and NAN is a reference to data that are just blank. It's not zero, it's not an integer, it's not an image, it's not a color, it's just blank. There's nothing in it. And if an AI model starts training itself with an NAN value, there's going to be a lot of errors because we're not expecting nothing to go into the AI model, right? Like if you think about the example beforehand, for the function, if we're putting nothing into the function, of course we're going to get nothing from it, right? And NAN is just those dummy values that we put nothing into a function as a part of nothing. We get nothing for it. So just to make sure, we don't want any values to be in our data, and that's why we are modifying our data, which is done through this EDA node. Now let's say we want to change our NAN values into mean. What is mean? Mean is the average, another word of average. We're taking all the different data and taking the average of it and substituting into any NAN values. The target here will be something we want to predict. Now, in the Boston housing data, there's something called MEDV. I'll type it out. MEDV, in all capitalized. There's a column with the title MEDV, and that's normally what we are predicting out of this model. So we will select MEDV as our target. Now we will pull, regression here. We'll talk about the difference between regression and classifier in the next video, but for right now, let's just understand that regression is some type of AI model we can use, okay? And we can connect this. And let's select something called linear regression. Linear regression is just a simple type of a regression model we normally use in AI, but we'll also jump into that later in a later video. And then we will connect our training node at the very end, just to make sure that the different data in our data set are distributed into different parts, so that some of the data could be used to train the model, and the other data can be used to determine the accuracy of this model. Okay, great. And it says training portion here, 30%, meaning that we are putting 30% of the data in our data set to train our model. And for the other 70%, we're leaving it to test this model to see if this model is accurate enough. Okay, and if we're done here, we'll click this green button. This is run. So if you click it, it'll say processing, and it gives us a result of saying mean squared error equals to 21.818 something. And here, mean squared error, of course, is an error rate, so we want to minimize this, right? Let's increase this to be maybe a 45% or something, and we run it again. Okay, we now get a mean squared error of 22, which is bigger than our previous mean squared error, right? And as I said, it's always better to decrease the error rate here. So maybe let's decrease it to less than 30, maybe 20. We run it, and we get even more, we get an even greater error rate here. So we definitely don't want to use a training portion of 20%. So let's try 35 then. Okay, 35 gives us 21.15, which is less than when we use a training portion of 30%, right? So in this case, we can say that, okay, the model where we're using a training portion of 35% is the most feasible one. And that's how you're going to use Codemesh to write your own customized AI model. But somehow, some of you guys, I definitely know that you guys will be asking, I want the actual code of this. How are you going to do that? You're just going to simply click this blue button on the top, which is download. And you'll be able to download something. And if we open this, you'll see the code for what we just coded ourselves using the Codemesh platform. This is the actual code for it. And if you execute all of these codes, you'll get the same prediction and the same error rate here. So it literally means that you can just sit in front of your desk and make a masterpiece of AI, not even by touching, not even putting your hand on your keyboard. And that's awesome, right? Well, in fact, Codemesh attempts to pave a path through your AI journey, even though you do not know those 1,000 lines of codes or the complicated mathematics that just never goes out of your brain once it fills in. We just want you to stay on track. If you want to start learning about those AI codes and, well, the math, linear algebra, multivariate calculus, if you want it, we're always happy to help. But we just want you to stay on track for right now. That's all for today, and please leave a comment if you have any feedbacks, if you have any questions. Thank you, and I'll see you later.